So, for this podcast, we like to do one big topic. One main course, I like to say. You know, we talk about those other topics for like 10, 20 minutes, but this one is this big topic is the big topic that we will talk about for a while, for a bit. Our main event. And
the main course.
Our main course, yes. Our main event this week is a little show that came out on Netflix that we've been wanting to talk about for a very long time. A show by our good friend, Jaden Smith. Okay. We're not actually friends with him, but...
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show.
Jaden
Smith. I present to you our topic of Neo Yokio.
Oh my god. I love it. I love it so much.
So let's get this out of the way first before we start delving deep into the show. What did you think? What is your initial thought? What's your overall thoughts? What's the summary of your thoughts?
My summary of thoughts. Okay. Poorly executed. But it grew on me. That is the gist of what I would say. It was dumb, but I enjoyed it. Because, kind of just like elaborating on that, I guess, the way I've talked to you about this before is just, I love schlock, bad movies. I love bad movies and bad TV and stuff like that. The Room, Birdemic, just stuff like that. Neo Yokio is one of those things where to really get something that's so bad it's good, you have to see the passion. And Neo Yokio,
there's so much passion behind it.
Full of passion. But it's just so misdirected.
So, talking about my own thoughts, I love this. This show is great. It's the best, I would say it's the best 6 out of 10 that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, which, ironic that you say that because it has a 6 out of 10 on IMDb. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, it's the best 6 out of 10. Like, it's, personally, I think this is fantastic. Technically, this deserves a really low score. But you know what? You could feel that passion.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to convince my friend to watch it, our mutual friend Jay, and he refuses, even though I keep saying it's a decent show.
I've been trying to also get Mitch to watch it, but he refuses as well because it's a hard sell when I say it's very stupid and it has moments where you can see the holes in the production. But I'm just
you can see those holes.
It's so it's so bizarre and fascinating to me that I can't stop watching.
Like, there's so many moments that you just go, this was made, this is fantastic. And all I could think about is, I know they're not going to get it, but I want a season 2.
Yeah, exactly. Well, okay.
So, I've never wanted a season 2 of something as bad as I want a season 2 of this.
a season 2 of something I would argue doesn't deserve a season 2. But I can only hope that it gets a season 2. Yeah.
Yeah. And this show is actually legitimately a decent show.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the first episode and the trailer do not do this show justice at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
Not at all. You get past that first episode. You texted me going like, this first episode's terrible. And I texted you back saying, that's the worst episode of the entire series.
Exactly.
Like, you go into that second episode, and you're like, this is remarkable.
Well, what sold me was, like, the final connecting arc between the last 2 episodes with the race.
Yeah!
Yeah.
Yeah!
That sold me. I was like, oh, wait, this actually has the workings of a good show. It's just, it's so, like I said, misdirected. Is how I would describe it.
And here's the thing. As you called me earlier, I'm a corporal of the anime community. Like, I have some anime behind my belt. I've seen a lot. I have a huge My Anime list of too many hours that I've spent watching anime. I know my anime. And a lot of people from the anime community was lambasting this. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. This is better than a lot of the stuff I've seen in anime. Like, I've seen a lot of anime. Trust me. There's a moment in my life where I said, I'm just going to watch everything that comes out on a weekly basis. And I watched like 20 shows. And I'm going to tell you, like, most of those shows that I watched that season were probably not as good as this show. Because anime, there's like a corporation behind it. There's like you could tell that someone is pushing for these animes to be made.
Right.
And there's no soul behind it. Like, you see animes like, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and like My Hero Academia, and the team behind it are passionate about the work they're doing. They love the work they're doing.
Right.
But then you see other shows that are like Battle Like a Harem Romances that come out of a dime a dozen. And our friend Jay disagrees with me on this. And I told him Neo Yokio is better than any of those Battle Like a Harem Romances. And he vehemently, like, is disagreeing with me. And the thing is that this show has more soul, has more themes, has more going on, and has more passion behind it than any of those corporate shows that I've put out in anime.
Well, immediately what I want to mention, you bring up the passion, it's because you can tell that it is... We argue, or you keep joking that Jaden Smith is like the brainchild behind this, but if you look at it...
No, it's Urza Cohen.
Exactly. Jaden Smith is just the voice actor of the main character. He has nothing else to do with the production. It's Ezra. Ezra Koenig.
Ezra, yeah.
Who,
Ezra
if you don't know what that name is, he's the lead singer and band leader of Vampire Weekend.
Which is a great band.
Yeah.
I love that band.
He's such a strange guy. And you could really see that.
Guy.
You could see that come through in this show. You could tell that
the thing is,
you could tell he's an American fan of Japanese animation, and that's why he wanted to make this. He got 2 legitimate Japanese anime studios to make this for him.
Production IG, which did shows like Ghost in the Shell, and Studio Dean that did stuff like Konosuba and a lot of great shows that came out, like a lot of good shows that came out in the past 2 years.
Yeah. And could I just give you a little background? I was reading up on this. This is on the Wikipedia page for the show. But I guess this show was actually announced in 2015. And it was originally supposed to be released on Fox with Animation Domination, which, if you don't know what that is, that's where Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, and American Dad all are.
Yeah, I know that is.
So they realized, wait a minute, this doesn't really fit, and so they put it on FXX. But then that also got canceled on FXX. So then Netflix bought it in late 2016, and they announced that they were going to put it on Netflix.
Okay.
So it's not technically a Netflix original series because Netflix really didn't have any production to do with it. The show was already made. They just bought the rights. So that makes me hopeful that if they do a second season, it will look better than this season did. Because my main complaint that I keep having with the show is sound design, which we're
gonna break this down in parts, but yeah.
My 3 biggest issues are sound design, animation quality, and the voice acting. And all of it comes at inconsistency. It's problems with inconsistency. Because
it's one of the most inconsistent shows I've ever seen.
Because they have moments where all 3 of those things are fantastic at different
Anytime
times.
He does a Kamehameha.
Yeah, anytime it's an action sequence, fantastic animation, fantastic sound design. And whenever you see the star-studded cast actually talking, if you get rid of Jaden Smith and some of the other people, there are actual standout voice actors, or, just legitimate actors, that do give very, very good performances in this show. And I don't get it. It makes me think they blew all their money on weird stuff. I don't know.
So Production IG is a production company.
Okay.
They don't really create anime, but they've done stuff like Ghost in the Shell and Psycho Pass. But they're the production company behind like a lot of different things that you might be familiar with.
Yeah.
Like Attack on Titan. I'm just looking at Parappa the Rappa, FLCL. Like a lot of these things I'm looking at, I'm like, they did production behind them. But yeah, I agree with you. It all has to do with inconsistency of this. Of that first episode alone is inconsistent with the rest of the show.
Exactly.
Like, it's so weird where, like, the rest of the show is, like, decent. I mean, I can't say good. It's decent.
It picks up. It really picks up.
It picks up. So, the way we're going to go to do this is let's talk first about all the technical stuff about this. Let's talk about all the technical aspects of all of the show. So let's go back to voice acting.
Yes.
The voice acting, I agree with you, is hit or miss. There are some that are great, some that are bad. But I want to point out something about it. After watching a couple episodes, I said, none of these voice actors actually match what their characters are.
That too. It doesn't make any sense.
And I have this feeling where they're just like, he watched Ghost Stories and wanted to do that. Because
they paid someone to draw all the characters, and then they showed them to them, and they're like, okay. The voice actors just did whatever they wanted.
Like, the voice acting and the character designers were in two separate rooms, and they did not talk to each other.
Two different countries.
Yes. I'm going to bring this back a little bit to a video game. My favorite is Yoko Taro. He does something very similar to this, but on a different basis.
Okay.
Where Yoko Taro, he tells his art designer, this is what I want this character to look like. He tells them, all the tropes that this character will look like. And then he tells the voice actor the totally opposite. And what happens is that it creates a misunderstanding where you see a character and you go, this character should not, like, this character will act like this, and then you get a totally different character. And I feel like he was trying to do that with this, but on the voice acting level, but kind of didn't succeed. But at the same time, succeeded because I was really into the voice acting.
Right.
The opera singer who comes from the West.
You mean the South?
The South, South.
What's
from the South.
Sailor Pellegrino.
Has a Southern accent. And you look at that character and you go, this character should not have a Southern accent. And I think that's genius.
Also, so I did some research on the actresses, like the people behind them. She is African American, the voice actress that plays Sailor Peregrino.
Wow,
right? It does not fit at all. It's just bizarre. And his ex-girlfriend Kathy, her voice does not match her body at all. Like that real raspy British voice, but she's supposed to be
the
from
only
the
person
States.
whose voice the only voice that matches is Kaz.
I could see, Kaz,
It's Kaz and his friends. Those are the only voices that match.
Also, the shop owner.
The shop owner.
Yeah, the guy who's like, I just love sports. He's actually, his name is Richard, I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to even try. But he was on the IT Crowd and stuff like that. Have you ever watched the IT Crowd?
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, he's the black guy with the afro that kind of goes all different directions.
Yeah, I literally am looking at my notes that I wrote when I watched it. Yeah. And my first note is terrible voice acting and terrible script. And subs over dubs. I think I remember I made a joke where I said to a couple of my friends when I was watching this, this is why subs are better than dubs.
But was it recorded in English first, or was it recorded in?
No.
Okay.
It was a complete joke.
Yeah.
It's totally. It's not even. It doesn't even have a Japanese dub. But it was just a joke of this is why subs are better than dubs. And then the next line is why the fuck does she have a Southern accent?
I don't get it. She comes out of nowhere.
Oh my god. But then you have Steve Buscemi, who's perfect.
He knocks it out of the park, which something I want to talk about, how misleading it is that they act like he is a major character, which he kind of is, narrative-wise, impact.
Yes.
He's very valuable. But he's only in 2 episodes. And the trailers make it seem like he's a recurring character in the entire series, which he is not.
But he is not. He's not. So let's move on to animation on here.
Oh my god.
From the voice acting. The animation, I think the backgrounds are nice.
Again, bringing it back to it's hit and miss. I was telling
backgrounds are occasionally nice.
Yeah, I was telling you earlier. There was this one establishing shot in the
mall.
Yeah, in the first or second episode, he goes to the mall, and it cuts to the outside of the mall. And I no joke, I wasn't trying to be funny because I was watching it by myself at night. I kind of went like, ugh, and I leaned back. I was like, that does not look good. It looks really bad. Like, it's really blurry. The characters that are walking around, very minimal, stiff animation. They just don't look like filled in.
There was a shot of a building on the outside with characters walking around, and the characters look like terrible, like cutouts from Archer.
Yeah, like they got ripped out of like a different animated series and plopped there. Like they stole assets from another show because they ran out of money. But like,
yeah, that's exactly how it feels like.
Characters will be talking, and like you were saying, the voice acting doesn't match up with the animation. Like someone will be like really excited, like the actor will be really excited, but it'll just be stiff lip flaps, just kind of going. They're standing there, only lip flaps. Occasionally they'll move their hand or something.
Yeah.
The opposite sometimes happens. The voice doesn't match the like really excited like animation of the character, but like the delivery of the character is really boring and dull and lackadaisical. It's just so bizarre.
Like everything from a technical basis of the show is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, but then, I guess now that we've done talking about so much of the technicalities of it, we need to start just talking about the script point by point. So we could both agree that first episode's terrible.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. We'll continuously harp on that first episode is terrible. It's what I feel like is what people thought the show was.
Right. It's everyone. It's the most. Okay. You know how I would phrase this to anyone that wants to watch the show? It's the most Jaden Smith out of any of the episodes.
Yes, I feel like Jaden Smith got to write one episode and it was the first one.
Yeah. It's essentially every time Jaden Smith's character Kaz Khan talks, it's just shitty poetry. And
it's like terrible poetry. It's something straight out of his Twitter.
Yeah, he's you know, like he's gesticulating about how he's such a tortured soul because his girlfriend broke up with him, and how he's so melancholic.
I'm mourning the death of a relationship.
Yes, and one moment that did make me, it legitimately made me laugh was he's talking to his robot butler, played by Jude Law, which again, Jude Law knocks it out of the park, fantastic actor. Again, he must be going through a rough patch in his career if he is attached to this thing. Anyway.
See, you can understand Steve Buscemi, because Steve Buscemi's not doing anything with his time. He's living off the riches.
Exactly.
But
he's
they're
fine.
Just probably like, hey, Steve Buscemi, we'll give you like $20. Can you just come in?
He has his Coen Brothers money. He's fine. But, so Jaden Smith's character, Kaz Khan, is talking, and like randomly he's like, I want to see the grave, Charles. And Jude Law,
my God.
He plays a flying robot butler named Charles, and he flies him to the grave. And
okay, so when this scene was building up, what did you think it was going to be?
I thought it was going to be his parents, because you never see his parents. We only meet his aunt, who, again, voiced by Susan Sarandon. She also knocks it out of the park. I wish she was in the show more, honestly.
Okay, because here's the thing, Brad. I was talking to my buddies while I was watching this, and I said, that grave is going to be a gravestone to his relationship.
I also could have thought it could have been that, too.
And then he goes and he made a tombstone for himself.
So it has his birthday, and then a dash to the day that he hasn't died yet. And he goes to his grave, and he sits in front of it, and he's like, I'm just going to take a quick rest, Charles. And he lays down on his grave, pretending to be dead. That legitimately was funny to me. I was like, only this fucking kid would make his gravestone ahead of time so he can mourn his own life.
And the thing is that this is the reason why I think that Jaden Smith had some hand in the first episode, or at least the writer of the first episode is completely different from 2 to 6. Mm-hmm. Because every line that comes out of Jaden Smith's mouth is some sort of thing that you can find on his Twitter or some sort of advertising.
Yes.
Like Coco Chanel, like, oh, look at this, you should try out this sort of perfume, a cologne, stuff like that. Everything is about that. But then that almost disappears the minute you get to the next episode.
But Toblerone, though.
The Toblerone is great. The Toblerone is the best waifu.
Big Toblerone, best waifu.
But from a plot standpoint, the first episode is very nothing, and it's just it makes people not want to go to the next episode.
Yeah.
And then you get to the second episode, and we're moving on. Is the second episode is just so great. It's of just like you just watch this, and it's like everything that I thought the show was is not here.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the bad voice acting and all of the production's still there, but like you start to see the glimpses of what his message was, of what he's trying to get at, and you get the parts where like the southern accent of the opera singer.
Yeah,
you have it where he takes the tuxedo out and he wears the tuxedo and they're like, hey, the ball's not till the end of the week. He's like, I gotta let it breathe and live. And then the entire plot point of that episode is not that there's a demon trying to steal the skull. It's that he's wearing a midnight blue suit.
And midnight blue is too daring. He needed a black suit because it's a black tie event.
Exactly. And the fact that that's the main plot line of that episode is genius. Like, I think one of my favorite lines from that episode, though, was, like, let's talk about his rival. His rival is fantastic.
And again, voiced by Jason Schwartzman. Again, knocks it out of the park. And I think that is the end of where the good voice actors are. There are 4 to 5, because Jaden Smith, he grows on you as the series goes on. In a way, he kind of grows.
But it doesn't mean he's a good voice.
No, it doesn't mean he's a good voice actor, but he kind of grows into the character. Like, I feel like...
Yes.
I don't know if I just got disillusioned and my brain turned off because I was like, this is so dumb. But, like, I started to be like, actually, I don't mind Jaden Smith's delivery.
Yes.
So, I'll say there's 4.5 good voice actors in this series.
Yeah, Jason Schwartzman as the rival is great.
What's his name?
Archangelo.
Archangelo,
because this is how I think that the first episode shouldn't have existed.
Okay.
Because the minute that Archangelo comes back in, it does the card as if he's being introduced for the first time, like he was in the first episode. And when that happened, I wished that the rest of the show had it every time he showed up in a scene.
Right, again, it was just inconsistency. It says his name and then the crew or whatever the hell it was underneath it. Him and his posse. Like,
every line that came out of his mouth was fantastic. And we'll talk about more when we talk about episode 6, but like the lines of he's like, "All right, boys, let's go run around the dam." Peace. Or when he's sitting, like, my favorite moment in that entire show is when they're trying on suits.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Archangelo, do you live here or something?" And he just goes, "I wish I did."
Again, and then there's subtle brilliance in there that I wish the whole show was like that, but it tries to take itself too seriously, I think.
Well, I feel like it starts taking itself too serious, but then at the same time it doesn't.
Yeah, it starts, like I said, as it goes on, it kind of grows on you and it becomes more aloof.
Yeah. And I love that fact that just like his rival is just great. And then you get introduced to the Toblerone, which is the greatest running joke in that show.
Almost becomes a character in itself.
Yeah. Like like in the I can't remember what it's probably the next episode or the episode after that where she's like, "I saved you because I had a dream of the Toblerone being strangled, and the Toblerone is you."
You are the big Toblerone.
And then okay, I have to open up Netflix because I'm trying to get this episode by episode to get all the finer details out. Like, and again, the animation gets really good when he's having the fight scene with the skull.
Mm-hmm. But wait, okay, did the demons stop after the 3rd episode? I think the demons just stopped after the 3rd episode. There are no more demons after the 3rd episode.
Oh my god, you might be right.
Because the way they frame it, you think it's just going to be a Monster of the Week kind of thing, where Jaden Smith is trying to live his posh, bougie lifestyle, And then his aunt is like, "Hey, get in the car, dipshit." And he's like, "I don't wanna."
And he's like, "I don't want to. I want to go do this other thing.
I want to go be a bougie
instead."
rich boy. But he can't because he has to fight demons. But that stops.
Yeah, no, because the third episode, going into the third episode, is the episode with the Hellenists, which is great, which is such a great episode.
They're so obsessed with Helen, or what's her name?
Yeah, Helen.
Yeah, Helena Saint Tessero. God, these names.
Yeah, they're so obsessed with her that they want to get possessed by a demon.
Yeah.
And that's where you start to see what he's trying to do with the series.
Right.
Is that this show is about Kaz's journey to learn how being rich and famous is not what's fulfilling in life. That's not what life is all about. And it's him starting to change from being really vain to not being vain and seeing the bigger world as it is.
Well, the thing that gets me about this show is it's a Marxist critique of capitalist society. It's the very basic, like, consumerism and capitalism makes us vain and selfish. The true meaning of life is, to love your fellow man and embrace the simpler things. But it's a very base level Marxist critique. It doesn't.
Yeah, it's very base.
It doesn't come across to me as someone that truly understands Marxism. It's someone that read the Wikipedia article for the Communist Manifesto and was like, yes. They throw out terms like bourgeoisie and stuff like that. Like, that's the extent of it. So I think.
But I really like what they kind of were trying to do with it a little bit, where you really only see it until the 5th or 6th episode. But when they blow up the Bachelor board, like, Archangelo becomes a nicer character.
Right.
And then when it comes back, he becomes his rival again. And it's because of that, and Helen even says it's like kind of like this symbol of, all the things that Neo Yokio stand for. Mm-hmm. And by blowing it up, like, people start to change. And the characters started to change after the blowing up the board. And it's just this really cool, like, I thought it was, again, a decent attempt at doing it.
Okay, well, so this might be where we kind of diverge in opinion here, because I think, again, going back to the inconsistency thing, it has those moments that I'm like, okay, that actually is legit Marxist critique. But then occasionally I'm just like, I feel like this has been retreaded so many times in, like, dystopian. I mean, well, that's another thing. This is actually subtly a work of dystopian fiction. I feel like a lot of people aren't realizing that.
We'll talk about the world. We're going to have a long talk
I want to talk about the world, because the world is just so bizarre. But anyway, there are moments where it is, like, subtly a good Marxist critique, but then you have moments where Jaden Smith's character literally just goes, I'm starting to think that Neo Yokio isn't the greatest city in the world. It's like, yeah, okay, no shit. Good for you, man. You came to that conclusion. Good for you. I don't think you needed Marxism to realize that.
Yeah.
Whatever, man.
And again, I guess it was just part of the thing where I felt like, coming from an anime fan, at least they were trying.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of like. That's why I say it's a decent attempt.
It's an attempt.
Is because at least they had some sort of theme in the show. And I think that's where I think that's why I liked it a bit, was because it was just like, I kind of just enjoy it because at least there's something behind this.
Right. Okay. Do you want to talk about the world?
Like, yeah, let's talk about the world.
Okay. So
the world is one of the most interesting details that I wish was talked about more in this show.
It's. I have so many questions that can't be answered unless I meet Ezra Koenig, and I lock him in a room, and I'm like, I have a piece of paper here with a bunch of questions. You're gonna answer these. So, like I said, it's kind of like this hyper futuristic, but also retro futuristic, hyper capitalistic, interpretation of New York City.
Because New York is its own city-state.
Exactly. It's not part of the United States anymore. It's a city-state called, they rebranded Neo Yokio. And
Because when they sung the anthem, I was like, that's not the United States anthem.
No.
And then I realized, I'm like, no, that's the Neo Yokio anthem because this is a different country.
exactly. It's its own independent entity within the United States. And did you notice the World Trade Center is still there?
The two towers are still there because they have lunch at the two towers.
Yeah, but it's underwater because I guess global warming happened or something. So
Yeah,
it's like
half of New York is underwater.
it's like an alternate reality. And then there's they have a walled-in interpretation of Brooklyn, kind of like what's that called? It was in China, the walled city in China. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like the Chinese markets kind of way?
No, it was like a giant slum. It got shut down.
Yeah.
Kowloon. It was this giant walled city in Hong Kong. It was like an old military fortress that they turned into a giant slum. And no one lives there anymore because it's a death trap. But was it Brooklyn or the Bronx? That it was this giant walled in.
It was like the 6th episode where they go into the slums.
Yeah, it's like the slums.
I know what you're talking about.
So it's just this weird dystopia interpretation of New York City. But another thing that kind of got me is there are other countries that don't exist. Like the Soviet Union is still a thing.
No, the one that confused me was that Kaz goes, "Oh, the Russians," and they correct him, and then he goes, "I mean the Soviet Union."
Yeah, the Soviets. The Soviet Union is still a thing. There's a character that is a Russian Soviet race car driver who defects to Neo Yokio because she doesn't like being a communist.
Yeah.
But then also they kind of imply that Japan and Italy are the same country.
Oh, I didn't catch that one.
You didn't catch that. The guy that is the race car driver, he's from... I really should have written this down. Dang it. What was his name?
Let's go to the Neo Yokio Wikia.
Do they have a Wikia? But anyway,
I hope they do.
He was from it was called Giopano or something like that. And you notice the flag patch on him, it was like a circle, kind of like the Rising Sun flag, but it was cut down the middle and it was red and green, like the flag of Italy. And so he has an Italian accent, but his last name is very Japanese. They also implied that French Canada was independent from Canada, where a bunch of people all live by themselves. That was also really strange. Yeah, it's just, I have so many questions.
There's so many things about the world that I wish was more expanded on, because it's one of the most interesting details, but the fact that France might be actually controlled by Chanel.
Oh, I didn't pick that up. Oh man.
There's so many little interesting details about it, where's South Kakalaka? Or
South Kakalaka.
There's so many things that I felt the world was at least I would love to just I want a book that just is the history of the world.
How Neo Yokio gained independence.
Yeah. That's a world that I want to know its history. It's so... There's so many things that are going on with it that's the part of the thing where I keep saying there's some genius in this show, but it's hidden.
Yeah, they're little sparkles. They're kind of just hidden here or there. And you have to really stick with it.
Yeah, you really have to stick with it, because if you don't, you're not gonna get to the good stuff that's in the end.
Which you know what this whole show is leading up to? It's Steve Buscemi's character.
Oh, it leads up to Steve Buscemi's character so well.
This show peaks when Steve Buscemi comes on the scene. Yeah,
dude, vaping, man, just like smoking a cigarette. Tastes just like smoking a cigarette.
So. Essentially, again, going back to the world of this show, Neo Yokio again is a city-state And I guess they kind of subtly imply with Steve Buscemi's character that there is a secretive society.
It's an authoritarian.
Yeah, it's an authoritarian secretive society that controls the city. So they hire this guy who's like an independent police officer detective. His name is the Remembrancer, and he's essentially
he's dressed like a judge.
He's dressed like a 1700s judge with the powdered wig and everything, and he is basically an inquisitor for the powers that be that control Neo Yokio, and he tries to maintain the status quo and the hyper-capitalist drive of the city.
And he vapes.
Yeah.
I can't keep going. That's the best scene
He
he's in.
vapes. If there's any way to instantly date your series, it's putting in a vape pen. But that scene is so funny. So they're trying to hide this girl that Kaz saved in the first episode because she becomes a Marxist and she doesn't like capitalism.
Yeah. She blows up the Bachelor Board.
Which, the Bachelor Board is like a numbered system, if we didn't explain this earlier, to represent who is the most eligible bachelor in the city, which
Kaz was number one at some
Yes.
point until he didn't wear the midnight blue suit.
So Jaden Smith and Jason Schwartzman's characters are fighting over who's the most eligible bachelor in the city. It's like a status symbol. So she blows it up.
Which...
Go ahead. Elaborate. What are you going to say?
Which my favorite moment from Jason Schwartzman's character is them on the racetrack and just going, Kaz, I won't help you unless you call me I'm your homie.
There's a race interpretation there that you could go into, like racial, but I won't delve into that. I don't have the.
Me either. I don't have the accreditation.
I mean, we're both brown boys, but I don't think we should get into this.
Yeah,
anyway,
we're not of the brown.
No, not that brown.
But yeah, so they're trying to save her from getting caught by the Remembrancer,
who again is like an inquisitor. So I'm assuming she's going to get executed for her crimes, her thought crimes. But anyway, so they hide her.
It's vaping.
They hide her on a balcony, and they're trying to hide her so Steve Buscemi doesn't find her. And he comes into the room, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry. Mind if I smoke?" And then so Jaden Smith's character is like, "Oh, I don't know if you should smoke in here. The neighbors are very testy about smoke." And he pulls out a vape pen. He's like, "Oh, don't worry. I brought my vape." And it comes out of nowhere because this whole character, you think he's just like this by the books like detective, like real creepy, but he has a vape.
Yeah.
He also enjoys oysters. later in the series, after he has his vape and he's like, yes, I think that's enough vaping for now. And then he closes the window.
Tastes just like a cigarette.
He closes the window and leaves. But later on, they run into him at the train station, and they ask him like, "Oh, Remembrancer, why are you here?" He's like, "I'm here to eat at the city's premier oyster bar." And he's like, "Would you like to join me?"
All voiced by the brilliant Steve Buscemi.
Brilliant Steve Buscemi. I'm doing a terrible interpretation, but just imagine Steve Buscemi's voice
on a 1700s judge vaping. And you got the picture.
And slurping down oysters.
Like, he's the best. Like, and that's what I have to say about it, is when you get to the end, there's just so many, like, shining moments that you just can't get, like, you don't see anywhere else. And you go, this is one of the most unique things that's ever been made. The fact... Okay, rolling back, the fact that the Jude Law mech is actually piloted by a really tiny woman.
Yeah, a tiny woman who sounds like this.
Is one of the most subversion of, like, oh.
He's like, you find out so you can buy these mechs. Again, questions about the world, but Jaden Smith's character bought his mech secondhand. So somebody else owned this mech with a tiny woman inside of it before him and decided to put it up for sale.
And there's all sorts of questions that you have to ask of, how does she eat?
Yeah.
When does she sleep? Like, does she go into stasis when she gets into the mech? It's unclear.
Why is she voiced by a British man? I don't get it.
And then he gets a new one at the end.
Yeah. Charles 2.0.
And, caprese, man. Caprese. Which, I need to try that.
I doubt it's a thing you can actually do. So, also, Kaz has these two recurring friends who... A funny tweet that I saw, which... It says it was like, they're written like someone is trying to write a black person who's never met a real black person before.
Yes!
Which it's
we gotta get these...
But his two best friends...
That's so true.
Yeah, they're his two best friends, and they hang out with him, and like they talk like they're trying to be like street, but they're also rich like him. I don't think you ever see their parents either. I have no idea where these guys came from. But they hang out with him, and then they open a bar where they make caprese margaritas or martinis. So it's supposed to be like a caprese salad. So it has like a tomato juice and like mozzarella cheese in it. It's so weird. Again,
and a tomato.
Tomato. Yeah, the show is so unique. It's so bizarre that you want to see more about it. I can't describe the feeling that it gives me.
If this is just a show about a different story about what's going on in the world, every episode, I would, like, if this was a long-running series of just what's new in this world with no overarching plot, right. I would watch
What's going on in Neo Yokio today?
But, like, not even Neo Yokio, like, let's just cut to South Kakalaka. Let's just cut to, France, controlled by Chanel, probably. Let's go to Italy, Japan. Like, it's just these little details that you're just like, what is I need to know more. And I think that's the conclusion as we wrap up here. Yes. That we have to say is that this is, again, one of the most terribly executed shows in like the past decade.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here wanting more.
Yeah. So that makes me hopeful that if they do get a second season, the animation quality will go up. They'll actually get some good audio mixing. Maybe some music. I feel like the music was kind of spotty.
Yeah, I do have to agree with that. I like the little classical music that they had. But I do agree with that. I hope that they don't actually legitimately phone in all of their voice actors. when you texted me that, where you're like, it sounds like they recorded these people on a phone. Like, they're on the phone, and I was just like, you know what? They probably did phone some of these voice acting.
One last bit that I want to talk about. Is just, okay. Just bring it up. I'll stop bringing up issues that I have with this show. But the first episode, there's literally a moment where one of the characters is talking. It's one of his friends when Kaz shows up to their stickball game or whatever they play, field hockey.
Field hockey.
And he's talking, and you can tell that the line that he was delivering kept going, but they cut it off. And you can hear the hard
cut. Did not notice that.
Like he's like mid sentence. He's like, "Yeah, oh, it's a good thing that Kaz is here finally, because we can finally win." And like it just stops. And I'm just like, "What was he saying?"
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the gist is it's a fascinating show that just poorly executed.
Yeah, no, definitely. That is definitely a thing that I have to agree with. Is that it's super poorly executed. But you know what? It's a very decent show.
I laughed. When it was trying to be funny, I legitimately laughed. So.
And here's what I'm going to do with this, is that I'm going to cut off this... I'm going to put the full thing on YouTube, but then I'm going to cut off this little discussion about Neo Yokio here. And I know the title already. It's Neo Yokio, is actually a decent show.
So,
because we're sitting here just talking about it, how we normally talk about stuff, and it's just so fantastic. Just the amount of things that we can talk about this show. And afterwards, I was thinking about this show. Like, after a day I finished it, I was, like, thinking about it and trying to, like, piece together what I just saw.
Right.
It sticks with you.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to say, is that it's not a forgettable series.
No. It definitely... It has personality, and it has, like I said, passion. It's just, it doesn't have the skill or elegance behind it that I think it deserves.
Yeah. And that would be it for our main section. And before we wrap up, what are you excited for in the coming weeks to come out?
What am I looking forward to?
What are you watching? What are you playing?
Well, I'm still trying to get through JoJo, so I'll let you know how that goes. You know what's actually
in like a month when we record another one, we'll probably be a good amount away.
Dato, what I'm gonna say, the thing I'm most excited for when it's coming back is it's coming back this month. Okay, it's a little show called Riverdale. Okay, this is a whole episode that I think could be itself. I want you to watch Riverdale, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, that comes out in October?
Later this month, yes.
Okay, so when I'm back from my trip, that will be our follow-up.
Watch Riverdale. I'm going to warn you now, it's a teen drama, so be prepared for that. Go into it, and just don't take it seriously. Look at it like a melodramatic black comedy.
Fantastic. Yes. All right. What else am I excited? I'm excited to play more Cuphead.
Oh yeah. So am I. Gotta beat it.
I'm excited for the new John Dies at the End book.
Oh yeah, I need to buy that.
I'm probably, after we get off this call, I'm gonna read a little bit of this and go to the gym. So I will maybe even bring this and figure out a way to exercise with a book.
Well, actually, you know what else I'm excited for? That comes out this month too.
What are you excited for?
Super Mario Odyssey.
What? Yes, that comes out. I don't have a Switch, but
buddy, gotta get a Switch.
Dude, that's money I don't have.
Yeah, that's a problem. See, I bought mine when it came out, so. I'm unemployed. So. Gotta get jobs before we can buy Switches. Yeah.
Unemployed, quote unquote.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I've told you about that, but
I think we're going too deep into this.
Yeah, but the minute I am not unemployed, that's something I will be getting. But I think that should wrap up the first episode of the Brown Bagging Podcast.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for sitting down and listening to us ramble about pop culture.
If you're one of the 10 people,
yes,
or actually 10 people, one person who got to this part, thank you very much.
I commend your stamina and your willpower.
But that's all for us. Thank you, and hope to see you next time.
See ya.